My name is Michael Levy. I'm the principal of GZ Consulting. We provide services to vendors and are partners of Tenbound and David Delaney. One of the things that we're putting together is a set of buyer profiles around sales engagement and some other topics. Lynne is the author of many of those reports, so that's why she's here talking about sales engagement. And I'd like to welcome her to the stage and let her get going.
All right. Hey, everybody. I thought, didn't we just have this conversation for everybody to move up, or no?
Yeah, let's do it.
Didn't we just have this conversation?
Yes, I have to stay in the back.
Perfect. We're in the back and we're all in the front.
All right, we're all family. So, question, how many of you folks are actively looking at sales engagement platforms? Well, I'm so glad you are. How many of you are using sales engagement platforms? Oh, look at that. How many of you are happy with the sales engagement platforms you're using? A couple of you. All right, so we're gonna talk features and functionality today, guys. So let me just introduce myself. I'm an analyst and I'm also a coach. I coach people in technology. I spent my entire career in B2B software, everything from call center to human capital management. And really, I'm all about how software can drive productivity through automation and through helping build connections at work, which is where sales engagement software is so fascinating because it bridges both of those. And I have lots of fancy degrees, but that doesn't matter. My mantra is do what you love and love what you do, period. Okay, we'll walk through just a quick overview of sales engagement. We'll talk about sales organization challenges, a couple of the engagement vendors, how do sales engagement platforms address key sales challenges, some purchasing criteria, and then looking out into the future. Are you guys okay or do you need to stretch? Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. There we go, it's a facilitator in me. All right, what do sales engagement platforms do? What I love is it streamlines the administrative part of sales so that sales folks can focus on the relationship. Right? We all know the relationship starts at sales. And it goes all the way through the sales cycle, through customer success, through customer service. But the more you can automate of the administration piece, the more the sales team can focus on that connection. All right, they also help you manage and refine sales messaging. I know there aren't any rogue sales folks out there, right? Building their own decks, building their own messaging. That never, ever happens. So sales engagement platforms helps manage that by making sure there's a consistent message and value prop. Okay? They automate tasks, messages, and workflows. Basically, so the sales rep walks in every day, the SDR, and knows what they need to do and what's their most important thing to do every single day. They don't have to worry about scanning things to figure out who's on first. The systems do it for them. What I love is they can combine their sales and marketing efforts. I come from the world of product management and product marketing, and it's just fascinating how the wall that sits many times between marketing and sales. Sales engagement platforms help break down that wall. And then certainly integration, if you're out looking for a solution, it has to integrate because nothing exists by itself. So it needs to sit within your sales system ecosystem. Okay. Challenges. Sales process repeatability. I've worked in organizations that have one or two rock stars, and then there's everybody else. Everywhere from SDRs up to account execs. So how can we replicate the magic up and down the sales organization? Again, how can we ensure we don't have rogue salespeople messaging whatever the heck they want? And then how do we coach? How do we coach new salespeople? Right? There isn't I don't think you can get a degree in sales right now. So one of the biggest challenges with sales is a lot of it's on-the-job learning. You've got formal learning, and then you've got on-the-job. And how can you effectively coach people? And then again, leveraging best practices, so it was not just those two people earning all the money. Sales versus non-sales tasks. The amount of times, I don't know this number, how much time, you may know, do we think is spent on non-sales tasks?
Oh, 50%.
50? I would have put it maybe a little higher.
That's 60 is what I've heard.
Yeah, 60? I mean, that's a huge amount of time. Imagine if you can even just cut that in half, and you've got that much more time on the talking to clients or prospects. And then maintaining authenticity. I can spot a faker a mile away. So how can you get rid of it? How can you maintain, the salesperson maintain that authenticity to build that emotional connection with the prospect? And then customer renewals, right? It's all software as a service now. What have you done for me lately? Customers, it's not just about keeping them happy once. You've got to keep them happy day after day, month after month. And then certainly increasing that top of funnel sales activity and response rates. Okay, anybody, did I miss anything from your perspective on challenges that you guys are facing?
Yeah. One of the challenges I'm facing right now is that they're almost like paralysis by too many options, if that makes sense.
So tell me what you mean. So there are too many choices. So you've
Too
got
many choices, so what route should I go that's best? And looking, I've only got two sales reps I'm deciding for.
Yep.
But in theory, when I scale the way I should, I'll have 20 this time next year and 200 the year after that.
Right.
So should I be okay with just picking one and then just rebuilding it a year from now? And
So do you have data that says which process was working more effectively than the other?
not right now.
So A, I capture data.
Uh-huh.
And B, you never want to present a salesperson or anybody with too many choices, right? Your choice limitations, you always want to limit to 3. So if you're looking at scaling, I'd measure your data, see what's the most effective, and reduce the choices.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right, how do these solutions? So sales process repeatability. Who knows what a cadence is? Okay. I like to think of it as a big if-then-else statement, right? If somebody's on your website, if somebody downloads a white paper, then reach out and make a phone call to them, and here's the template of the phone call, or send them an email. If they don't open the email, then what do you do? So you're basically automating for every single piece of the sales journey what should be happening. Everything except that authentic interaction. Okay, whether it's the content of the email, even leaving a voicemail you can automate. And you're removing the salesperson having to think about, all right, should I call them? Should I call them? What's the best time to call them? Should I send them an email? Who's the right person? Oh, that's right, what's the information about this person? What's his or her background? Again, you're automating all of those pieces and parts. So ultimately, when the salesperson does get on the phone with the prospect, it's authentic. They're not frustrated from having to do all this tactical work, and they can just focus on the relationship. Because people buy based on emotion, right? And then rationalize it. So that relationship is critical. I mean, certainly there are templates. We talked about email and messaging and the rogue salesperson. So marketing can build templates of the right content, as well as the right script, okay? And the rule is about 80% should come out through marketing, but you want the sales rep to customize about 20% of it, so it's their authentic voice. But again, you're automating a good chunk of it so that they can focus. And then certainly making sure things synchronize with your CRM, so you've got a good data flow, and then you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So you need good analytics and reporting. Yes?
How are you contrasting cadences versus playbooks?
Great question. So a cadence is the way I talk about it is the cadence is the actual process. So first I make a phone call, or I send an email, and if they open the email, then I do this next action. A playbook also includes the templates, the messages, and the content.
You don't see that together?
Cadences are part of playbooks. How's that? Good question. Yes, did you have a question? Did I see another?
Scratching my face.
Oh, you're scratching your face? All right. All right, sales engagement platforms also deal with consistent messaging, making sure it's consistent. Again, marketing defines the message. And I'm sure marketing messages never change, right? Or maybe they do. But as they change, sales always has the right message. Okay, they're targeted, so you can have different messages depending on industry. I worked at Kronos for many, many years, and we would have different messaging if we were talking to somebody in healthcare, somebody in retail, somebody in financial services. And we actually had dedicated marketing groups who would build those different messages. Okay? And then snippets. So for example, if you're having a regional forum on October 1st that you want to invite somebody to, you can just include that snippet as part of the message. Again, it's easy personalization. Okay? And like I said, your messages can be personalized, follow the 80-20 rule. If it's too automated, people will ignore it. It needs to have the voice of the salesperson, but they can't go rogue. Okay, how many of you folks have ever been coached? Yeah? Tell me about were you on the phone when it happened?
I have been coached on the phone via Slack, actually.
Interesting. Okay, so you're on the phone and they're slacking you and they're listening to the call.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting way to coach.
Yeah.
So certainly coaching is critical, and the sales engagement tools will allow somebody to listen in to the call, listen in and just talk to the SDR, or if things are potentially really going south, come right into the call. But I love that idea about being coached via Slack as well. Right? So you're listening and then you're sending feedback real time.
But is that sales engagement or is that conversational analytics? They're separate products.
No, they're separate products.
Some of them are combining them.
OEM relationships, partnerships, bundles, but they're separate products.
They're separate, yes, certainly they would be separate products, but just from a process perspective, the question is which is less distracting for the salesperson? And I wonder if you're on the phone and your attention is going to Slack, are you losing focus on the customer? Right? Because our brain can only do one thing at a time. Other thoughts on coaching?
Is it a real-time thing? Is that what you want, or do you want a post-mortem approach?
Well, the good news is the sales engagement vendors do it both ways. So the question is, how junior is the person? Where are they in the onboarding cycle? One of the challenges with feedback is you want feedback to be given to somebody almost immediately. So if it's an offline approach, so you listen in and then you give the coaching, make sure it's relatively close together. But when you're thinking about sales engagement platforms, make sure that you're considering real-time coaching, you're considering after-the-fact coaching, you've got transcription, so you've got the whole interaction, and you've got whether the person who's being coached can have somebody basically coach them real time in their ear. Whew, that was a mouthful. Did I answer the questions on coaching? Anybody else ever been coached real time in their ear? It's actually, yeah, you have? It's really common in the world of call center. Yeah, so how was it? What was the experience like?
It's a little distracting for me personally.
Yep.
Since I start to lose where I wanted to take my train of thought.
Right.
But I understand the value for more junior reps. So, yeah.
I would say what's interesting is when you're doing real-time coaching, my recommendation actually as a coach would be to be careful because again, the brain you can only focus on one thing at a time.
And then, yeah, it also comes off as you lose your genuine approach sometimes when someone else is telling you to say what
Oh, yeah.
they think is the right thing to say.
Great, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Yeah, because now you're totally scripted, which people can spot a mile away. Okay, also for coaching, we've got best practices, so things can be recorded, so new people can go and listen in on some really awesome sales calls. Okay? And there's also what we call an opportunity view, where you can see basically a view of everything going on. Coaching is critical from a sales perspective. We talk about automating as much as possible. You don't want to automate coaching. This is how people learn and grow. Okay, best practices. I worked at an organization where 2 salespeople brought in 80% of the revenue. It was insane, and it was frustrating for the rest of the sales folks. So the question is, how can you leverage the magic, right? And that's what sales engagement products will do. So it could leverage not only the process they used, but the tone and the messaging, and exactly what piece of that sales process was the magic coming from. And what we found is the magic was actually in the relationships, right? So these tools automate so you can focus on building the relationship. You can have cadences, again, that massive if-then-else statement, that can cross channels. If you try to reach them, they're not there, you send an email. If they don't respond to the email, or if they don't open the email within 2 days, make another phone call. So you're mixing media with these. And again, everything's configurable. And you can also capture, this actually, I love this, comes from the world of call center, where you can capture what you call the disposition. So how did that sales call end? What was the mood of the buyer, and how did it end? Again, you're now measuring the quality of your playbooks, of your templates, of your cadences. And again, we talked about onboarding. You could even have an onboarding sequence, an onboarding cadence, where you have a bunch of new sales reps calling and interacting with each other and playing different parts of the process. Okay? And then again, data, data, data. Use your data to make your decisions, not gut feel, not the person who may be the friendliest. I mean, I could go into biases all over the place, but use data to decide your best practices. What's also fascinating is a lot of these tools are now being used for non-sales tasks, right? I mentioned this before, the customer journey is right when they pick up the phone or they download a white paper, all the way through to renewal, through customer success, through legal. That's all part of meeting with product management on the roadmap. That's all part of the sales cycle. So what we're seeing is that these tools are also being used by customer service reps or CSMs. Okay? They're able to record meetings. Imagine, even from a product perspective, if you could use these tools when you're reaching out to customers to get product feedback. You're recording the meeting. You're transcribing the meetings. Okay? You're managing tasks. So these sales engagement platforms are moving outside the sales process into all other parts of the organization. Okay, I love identifying next steps. So imagine you're at renewal time. Okay, there are a certain number of things that need to happen in terms of touch points, who needs to reach out to the customer. Again, let's automate it. Instead of relying on somebody remembering, automate it so you're focused only on the interaction. And again, everything's synchronized, as well as the vendors now include the best time to contact. So for example, if you're trying to contact somebody in Washington, D.C., you probably don't want to try to contact them, regardless if it's B2B or B2C, between 5 and 7, because they're on the Beltway trying to get home. Okay? So again, what these products allow you to do is to focus on the relationship. So things like video, one-on-one interactions, personalization as needed. So it's basically, it's almost like these tools provide guardrails for the sales folks, but there has to be some room for personalization to make it authentic and real. It's about connection. How many of you folks have ever been contacted by a salesperson where you're like, you are just in it to make money? Like, you don't give a shit about me or my needs. I'm all about your commission check, right? So you have to make it has to be genuine and authentic. And by removing and automating those processes, which frankly are very salesy, for lack of a better word, you can focus on that interaction. You can be actively listening. You don't have to take notes when you're talking to customers anymore. The system records it and takes care of all that, right? So now you're in a genuine conversation versus a scripted conversation. Okay? And then certainly, again, we've got integrations, for example, with LinkedIn. Okay, that's a general overview of the capabilities. Okay, again, how many of you are in actively searching mode for a vendor? Do we just have one? Two, okay, awesome. Couple considerations. These vendors have a ton of capabilities, a ton. But make sure you understand what you really need. Okay? Do you need a pair of sneakers? Or do you need a Ferrari? I'm just going next door. A pair of sneakers will do. Or I'm going across the country. So make sure you understand what you need. Make sure it can scale and it covers all the IT issues, security, scalability, redundancy. You also need to understand how will the role of your sales group change. So there needs to be change management associated with this, right? Because you're taking away some of the tasks that some people do. They're going to be held probably more accountable. Their numbers may increase. They're going to be talking to more people. Okay, so make sure you understand and embrace how the sales role will change, and make sure you've got good change management with it. And think about who are your users? Is it SDRs? Is it enterprise sales? Is it customer success? And AI, all these vendors have some amount of AI. What role do you want AI to play in your process? Certainly reporting, again, what you can't measure, you can't manage. Make sure to look at all the interfaces as well as sales intelligence. But it has to fit in nice and cleanly into the natural flow of work. Okay, so in terms of the landscape, we have our enterprise play. Again, SalesLoft, outreach and inside sales. You have your mid-market vendors, SalesLoft, VanillaSoft, Yesware, Connect Leader, and Salesforce, high velocity sales. So there are some top-notch vendors here. Some of them are even downstairs. And here's just a quick pricing. Again, you'll have access to the presentation, but what to expect from a pricing perspective. And then we recommend you don't go in this by yourself from a buying perspective. Have a buying committee, as most organizations do. There are a lot of people impacted by software such as this. Okay? So you've got sales ops, the sales teams, people in CRM, marketing, okay, IT, customer success. It should absolutely be a buying committee with everybody having their opinions, their needs part of it. Okay, and again, make sure you think about integration. And when a vendor says, oh, of course we integrate, make sure you understand what that integration does and what is that user experience and how much configuration is involved for both CRM, email, and LinkedIn. Okay, think about video, think about sales intelligence, think about chatbots, for example, coming out. But again, look, sales engagement, it's a process. You've got cadences, you've got flows, but it sits within your ecosystem of other systems. So make sure you've got an understanding of how things fit together. And there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. So you've got artificial intelligence. You've got transcription. Then you've got indexing. And imagine if you could see via the transcript when people's voices went high, when they got a little angry, or when they brought up a competitor, or they're picking up the mood. And then what do you do with it? Having some recommendations. Imagine if you've got somebody not only the system monitoring, but providing coaching tips as well. Okay? And again, make sure you look at the partner app directories, because a lot of these AI tools are being done by third parties. So again, the question is, how do they integrate? We talked about next best action. And then, again, continuing automation of sales tasks. If we could just get it to automate our engineering group building the stuff people want to buy, then we'd be good. Now, one thing to consider is just because the capability is there, doesn't mean you should use it. I will admit, I am on the fence on chatbots. I'm on the fence whether I find them annoying or whether I like them. When I go to a website, hello, Lynne. And how do you know who I am? And why are you bothering me? Right? So I'm on the fence. So just because the capability is there doesn't mean you should use it. Okay? And then another future trend is taking these tools, again, and moving them from the SDR to other customer-facing employees, like the customer success team, huge customer-facing group, the account execs, strategic client directors. And again, using these pieces and parts for internal activities. All right, Michael, you want to talk about the buyer profiles?
I'm talking about the buyer profiles. Very quickly, we are putting together a set of buyer profiles. SalesLoft is available today. VanillaSoft we will have available in about 2 weeks, and then others will follow on. The goal is eventually to have 4 or 5 profiles available along with tools, overviews, and things like that that will be available as a buyer's kit to assist the buying committee. And that's the direction we're moving. We're starting first in sales engagement. We'll also do it for some other segments as well, but this is where we're starting.
All right, questions? What do you guys think of sales engagement platforms?
Love them. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I come from call center, I come from tech, but I only like tech to the extent it helps change culture and build relationships. And that's what I love about sales engagement platforms, is it does both. Yes?
What do you look for in a good synchronization solution? What criteria are you evaluating that piece on?
You want to take that one, Michael? A synchronization solution?
Synchronization. Well, first off, when you look at sales engagement, most sales engagement platforms, while they store data, the system of records will continue to be the CRM. And for most people, the CRM is Salesforce. So synchronization really is something that you want to have to be bisynchronous, real-time, and even available for capturing a broader set of variables. So for example, during some calls, if they're scripted, you may want to capture additional information and then be able to synchronize that data automatically into your CRM. Most of the vendors haven't gone beyond Salesforce, or they provide later integrations or send to CRM, but it's really with Salesforce where you're seeing the strongest set of synchronizations available today.
I guess I was kind of looking more for like the pitfalls. What's a bad synchronization look like? Obviously, you want to get the best data back, but
Bad
what are we
synchronization.
trying to
Well, what are we trying to avoid for synchronization? Could you elaborate on that question a little bit more? Because
I'm just curious. I mean, everybody downstairs is saying they get everything in Salesforce on 1,000%. And
Yeah.
obviously, that's not true. But what are you seeing in a sync that's not working 100%?
how would you see not 100%?
I can jump in. Not that I'm a sales engagement vendor at all.
Just Daryl is from VanillaSoft, so.
From groups, so
Okay, so,
we're all.
okay, so from Groove, you're looking at it and saying, hey, we're native in force.com, so.
I just joined,
So we can set up fast, very quickly, and get you rolling quickly versus other vendors. We have to do a lot of matching of the data okay, so I got your context there with that question.
I get to ask because some vendors require a click to save functionality as opposed to a real time back and forth.
Right.
You change fields and it's there. What happens when you're using disposition codes, if I didn't click to save, I've lost all those nodes and they're not in Salesforce and they're not in Sales Engagement Vendor, right? So you want that real time on all the time, the integration.
Yeah, I guess for context, I'm new to the industry, just a couple of weeks into the role.
Right.
I've obviously swallowed our own Kool-Aid, but I'm just kind of looking to get a sense of what else is going on.
That's a great question. Other questions?
Yeah, one thing which struck me was that previous session was about best practices and how to keep everything fresh or try to keep it fresh so it's more like it's good to have best practice and standardization, but you don't want to lose the message on the person you're talking to. And then we talk about sales engagement in terms of everything standard, packaged.
That's an
So
excellent.
how do you manage that conflict in any, when you're reaching out, like,
Absolutely.
I'm immune to most of the way you're reaching out at scale, but if you don't do that, then you can't scale.
So the reality is, can you reach out at scale with a fresh message?
Yeah, with the
So,
personalized message, right?
With the
Yeah.
fresh and semi-personalized
Yeah.
message. Of course, and that's the benefit of these products is you've eliminated all the maintenance. So if marketing says we want to tweak our messaging, we've got a new campaign, whatever, they can just change it in one place, and sales knows about it. So what's good about sales engagement is that yes, it's standardized, but when you do have to personalize and keep it fresh, it's easy.
But the flip side is, if you've got a broken sales message,
Exactly.
Then you're really
you're going
Yeah.
to scale.
Yeah,
a broken
scale.
sales
Exactly,
Right.
yeah. And then
Well, if you're paving the cow paths, you're inefficient, you're not going to accomplish much, and just being more efficient at a bad process just makes that bad process faster. Yeah, and scale faster, but the assumption here is you have good processes that you're trying to implement, and if you're creating bad processes, well,
So what these vendors also support is A/B testing, so you can test out all those processes first before you go roll them out to hundreds of sales reps.
Thank you so much. Can we have a warm round of applause, please?